Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Balaba Girbardhari Gopi Janavallabha Girbardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girbardhari Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girbardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Shivam Sabaladaraj Stoides at the CCMI. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Sangha Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Om Vishnu Padam Sabharaj ki Jai Stojas at the Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Gaur Premanandi. As many of you already know, the sad news of passing of my dear God brother and beloved dedicated disciple of Srila Prabhupada, His Holiness Bhakti True Maharaj. There's nothing to lament for Maharaj, of course, but we lament the loss of his association. He served Srila Prabhupada very gloriously, and even as personal servant and secretary. I think he's the only person I know, the only disciple of Srila Prabhupada I know that received all three initiations at once, first, second, and sannyas. A very glorious soul, very gentle and loving and kind. But this is a world of appearances and disappearances, in case you haven't noticed. You will go, I will go from this body. Everyone goes. It's just that when there's the departure of a great saintly person, we feel acutely the separation from the bhakti of such a personality. There's nothing, as I said, to lament for the person. His service to Srila Prabhupada goes on eternally. Jivera Swarupoi Krishnera Nityadas. We are all the eternal servants of Krishna. And His Holiness Bhakti True Maharaj dedicated his life for Prabhupada's service. And that service goes on wherever Srila Prabhupada wants. That is spiritual destination. A Vaishnava wants to go where Krishna wants them to go, for service, not for our own gratification, but for Krishna's happiness. So if you're serving in this lifetime, all for Krishna's happiness, certainly your next destination is more service to Krishna, more glorious, intimate service to Krishna. By the departure of Vaishnavas, we get to remember that this material world is not a nice place. We so quickly forget that. Just like with the Moshla Leela in Srimad Bhagavatam, the departure of the Yadu dynasty. From one point of view, it's very tragic. They annihilated one another in a massive, intoxicated brawl. That is Krishna's trick. Because how to withdraw the Yadu dynasty? No one could conquer them. No one could defeat them. So Krishna arranged that they defeat themselves and go on to the next destination of Krishna Leela, or go back to the heavenly planets, or back to the spiritual world, wherever Krishna orchestrated their traffic movements. Such departures make us realize how devalued the material world is. We want to enjoy here. But when we see the realities, when we hear about the realities, we become sober, at least for a moment. We stop dreaming, we stop hallucinating that this material world is a nice place meant for our fulfillment. Somehow or other we have that crazy notion in our head. So by the apparent miserable circumstances of any departure, as Prabhupada once said, there is no nice death from the material point of view. The materialists have this idea that a nice death is departing in your sleep, in your bed, in your own home. That's a nice departure. They only see externally. They don't see what the subtle body is going through, the terror. So from the material point of view, there is no nice death. But for a devotee, it is different. The internal is different from the external. The common example given is of the cat holding a rat in its mouth and the cat holding a mouse in it, its own kitten in her mouth. Externally, both look the same, but what is the rat or the mouse feeling as compared to what is the kitten feeling? The kitten is feeling love, and the rat or the mouse is feeling terror. But from the outside point of view, it all looks the same. So you may ask, why does Krishna allow his devotees, his dear devotees, to go through such ordeals? Departures from the body in various ways. Number one is to satisfy the materialists. Just see, you spent your whole life in bhakti and you're dying just like us. What's the difference? The acharyas point out, Krishna is doing that to protect the secret of bhakti, because actually bhakti is confidential. So the materialists get their sustenance. Just see, I might as well enjoy now. We all wind up the same way, whether you're a Krishna Bhakta or not. And the devotees become impelled to go deeper in their spiritual life. Otherwise, we'll never understand Krishna Lila in Vrindavan. Pastimes in which it seems Krishna is bringing the Brajbasis beyond the point of breakdown, anxiety. Why is he doing that? When we have spiritual vision, then we can understand. Otherwise, we don't see the situation at all. The first step is to become free from the bodily conception of life. And then we can start to understand how Krishna arranges always for our spiritual development, even through birth, death, disease, and old age. So we are not lamenting for the departed Vaishnava. We're lamenting for ourselves. We're missing that association. Of course, on the spiritual platform, everyone is together through chanting Hare Krishna. But we certainly miss the ready access on the material plane to such association. So let us all thank Srila Prabhupada for having such a glorious son as His Holiness Bhakti True Maharaj. And let us seek to emulate his tender, loving, warm dealings with devotees and his dedication to Srila Prabhupada's mission. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 28, Kapila's instructions on devotional service. Text 37. Deham chatam na charamastitam uttitam va. Siddho vipashyati yato jagamat swarupam. Daivarupetam atadaiva vishadapetam. Vaso yata parikritam madhura mandanda. Deham chatam nacharamastitam uttitam va. Siddho vipashyati yato jagamat swarupam. Daivarupetam atadaiva vishadapetam. Vaso yata parikritam madhura madanda. Deham chatam nacharamastitam uttitam va. Siddho vipashyati yato jagamat swarupam. Daivarupetam atadaiva vishadapetam. Vaso yata parikritam madhura madanda. Vaishnavis, Deham, material body. Cha, and. Tam, that. Na, not. Charama, last. Stitam, sitting. Uttitam, rising. Va, or. Siddha, the realized soul. Vipashyati, can conceive. Yata, because. Ajagamat, he has achieved. Sarupam, his real identity. Daivat, according to destiny. Upetam, arrived. Atta, moreover. Daiva vasat, according to destiny. Apetam, departed. Vasa, clothing. Yata, as. Parikritam, put on. Madhura, madanda, one who is blinded by intoxication. Purport. This stage of life is explained by Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. A person whose mind is completely dovetailed with the desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who engages 100% in the service of the Lord, forgets his material bodily demands. Translation again. Because he has achieved his real identity, the perfectly realized soul has no conception of how the material body is moving or acting, just as an intoxicated person cannot understand whether or not he has clothing on his body. Om Gyanatimadandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitang Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Go Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We're nearing the end of a chapter of instructions by Lord Kapila Dev. He's always and only teaching bhakti, but sometimes, due to instructions meant for different ages, as well as wisdom meant for us today, he deals with bhakti encased in, just like we're hearing, the Ashtanga Yoga system. In this way, you get to find out what real Ashtanga Yoga is all about. It's far different from what is tossed around these days. The real Ashtanga Yoga system has as its goal meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It brings you to the same result as hearing and chanting about Krishna brings you, but it's just that in this day and age, it is very difficult to perform. If you have the chance to go up a mountain, which has very rough, stony, hilly, difficult terrain, and someone says, well, here's a four-wheel drive car that can make it up to the top, or you can walk a very torturous route and risk slipping and falling and breaking limbs and never making it to the top, which would you take? Obviously, you would, if you're interested in getting to the top successfully, take the most direct route. The route that promises to get you there with no damage. So this is the point of chapter 28 of the third canto. You get to see the full Vedic panorama. Sometimes Bhagavatam presents to you what the path of karmic activity, good karma looks like, with the goal of ultimately satisfying Vishnu. And sometimes Bhagavatam presents the mystic yoga system. But always the goal is presented that you must reach Krishna. By hearing and chanting, you immediately have Krishna. This is Mahaprabhu's benediction for the darkest times. An example given in this verse is very appropriate for this phase of Kali Yuga. Using the example here of an intoxicated person. In previous yugas, this would be considered exceptional, but now it's considered, if you're not doing this, you're considered exceptional. So you're having 3 verses describing how the liberated soul experiences the body. 3 verses which give you 3 handy examples. First, you hear that the liberated soul has no conception of how the material body is moving or acting. In the same way that an intoxicated person can't understand whether or not he or she has clothing on the body. The body is meant for Krishna's satisfaction. When the mind is completely dovetailed 100% with Krishna's desire, then the material body of a perfectly liberated soul is like an iron rod, as you know, kept in the fire. It acts just like fire. The second example given is dreaming. Just see, when you woke up this morning, you so readily abandoned your dreams during the night. Whether you can remember them or not, you were dreaming. But you detached yourself upon waking up, right? Did anyone have any problem? Oh, where? I want to go back in the dream world. Oh, that was me. No, you're detached. Just a dream. Might have been nice, might have been bad, but just a dream. Let me get on with my day. So similarly, the liberated devotee, because of being awake to the constitutional position as Krishna's servant, and because of full absorption in fulfilling Krishna's desires, the perfectly liberated devotee considers bodily activities to be like the activities of a body in a dream. You've had experience of a dream body. You were doing things, going here and there, having experiences. But when you awakened, you realize it's just a dream body, and you just disassociated yourself from it. So in the same way, in example number 2, remember number 1, the intoxicated person who has no idea whether clothes are on or clothes are off. Number 2 is discarding the dream body and the dream affairs associated with the dream body. The third example given is that you know your family is different than you, but because of affection, you're attached. But in the liberated state, you understand that just as there's a difference between you and your family members, similarly, there's a difference between you and the body. The other example, besides the family members example, is money. You know you're different from whatever money you have. But because of attachment, there seems to be this connection. But actually, even when you're attached to family members or money, you still know it's different from you. So this is the example Lord Kapila Dev gives. Because of great affection for family and wealth, one accepts a son and some money as his own. And due to affection for the material body, one thinks that it is his. But actually, as one can understand that his family and wealth are different from him, the liberated soul can understand that he and his body are not the same. So these are very memorable, practical examples. At the pinnacle of the mystic yoga system. So what does bhakti do to bring you to that goal? By acting with your mind and senses for Krishna's pleasure, you can much quickly understand how you are not the body and things in relation to the body are not you. Not because of some kind of mystic yoga, but because of immersion in Krishna's service. Our goal is to have our mind and senses always engaged in Krishna's service. And then we have taken shelter of the internal potency. How else do you plan on doing that? How can you have a conduit to Krishna without devotional service? What method do you propose? Mere theological belief in Krishna? No, the access point, the portal to Krishna is through devotional service, because that devotional service is Krishna's internal potency. And he says, it's only by your going through this route that I can be accessed. And that service has many levels. Just like when you're singing the prayers to Tulsi Devi, you're actually saying something far beyond the generic level of being Krishna's servant. So the realm of devotional service to Krishna has unlimited depths. And Krishna's perfect and liberated devotees are always expanding the depths of loving devotional service to Krishna. So you never reach the limit. You never reach the end, because that ocean, that Rasamrita Sindhu, is always expanding. So again, this chapter is about mystic yoga. But actually, as Krishna says at the end of the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Yoginam api sarvesham margatenantaratmana shadavam bhajate yomam sameyuktatamo bhata. The greatest yogi, the greatest mystic, is the one who engages in loving devotional service. So, bhakti is mysticism, whether you ever thought about it or not. If someone asks you, are you a mystic? You can say yes. Even the children, although they're making noise, they are budding mystic yogis. Just by engaging in Krishna's service, you are at the topmost level of bhakti mysticism. Though there's so much more to be had, but you have your foot in the door, and you have access, if you're serious, to higher and higher levels. So let us not forget the depths of what we are engaged in. We beg for the privilege of devotional service on all its various levels. And we take Krishna's words very seriously. This is the greatest yoga. The greatest yogi does this, engaging in transcendental loving service. In the topmost portion of the spiritual world, and when Krishna enacts the pastimes in the material world, he is the greatest mystic, but he doesn't let his intimate associates ever think that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Brijbasis do acknowledge this boy has some special powers, but they don't think he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because Krishna doesn't want that. And Krishna's Yogamaya potency doesn't allow that. Because the Leela Shakti that manages the pastimes always creates the best situations for Krishna's pleasure and his devotees' pleasure. Just like what happened after the defeat of Kaliya. Such a traumatic event. Try to understand the devastation on the riverbank of this poisoned section of the Yamuna. The Brijbasis had collapsed on the riverbank, seeing Krishna caught in the coils of Kaliya. It was a desperate, most pathetic, most heart-wrenching scene. Mother Yashoda trying to wade into the waters, her elder gopi friends holding her back, Balaram smiling. Oh, what are they so worried about? Here is my brother Krishna, who won't play with me in my form as a Nantashesh, but here he is playing with some insignificant water snake, Kaliya. And he's restraining with his smile the Brijbasis from jumping in to the poisoned river to save Krishna. There's all kinds of incidents going on the riverbank. Restraint by glances, physically holding. The elder gopi ladies, besides physically restraining Mother Yashoda, would pour into her ears stories of Krishna's activities, just to pacify her, keep her from just becoming transcendently, totally deranged. Okay, so Krishna defeats Kaliya. And the Brijbasis are so happy to receive Krishna on the riverbank. But they are very exhausted. They've been crying so much. They're weak and exhausted. They also haven't eaten. Why haven't they eaten? Because everything they eat is first in glorification of Krishna. And Krishna, they haven't fed him anything because they're thinking the milk from these cows might be poisoned because of their drinking the poisoned water. We can't offer that to Krishna, so we're not eating. Because Krishna, we're not going to offer these milk products from these cows to Krishna, and that's all that's around here right now. So we're not eating also. So everyone was very weak and exhausted from lack of food and exhausted by the whole intensity of what happened. So they decided, let's just stay right somewhere by the river. Also, besides being weak and exhausted, they were so glad to be with Krishna. They're just looking at him and looking at him and looking at him. And that's another reason why I didn't want to go anywhere. The discretion they did have, however, was, let's find a spot farther away from the riverbank because of the poison. So they camped out for the night a little farther away from the river. And that's why when the forest fire struck, it caused such a panic. The forest fire had surrounded them on all sides at night because they weren't near the river. If they were near the river, that wouldn't have been possible. So you can just imagine, after all that drama during the day, and then you're so happy to be with Krishna, in spite of your weakness and exhaustion, you're just staring at Krishna with pure love. You all go to sleep safely, and then you wake up to a forest fire surrounding you on all sides. Does it ever end? But Krishna knows how to bring the most out of his devotees, how to increase the love, how to increase the bhakti. So the residents of Vrindavan called out to Krishna and Balaram. Krishna, Krishna Mahabhaga. And they called for Balaram too. They knew Balaram has some inconceivable powers that we can't understand. We're calling out for them both, although they had the most affection for Krishna. Were they thinking to save themselves? Were they selfish? No. They were thinking, if we die, we'll be separated from Krishna's service. We can't tolerate being separated from Krishna any kind of way. So Krishna, save us, because we don't want to be separated from you. And if we die, where's our service to you? They're not thinking life after life, eternally, they're serving Krishna. They're covered by Yoga Maya. Oh my goodness, something is happening that will cause a separation from serving Krishna. Oh no, we can't die, because if we die, where will our service be? They're not thinking that we're situated in our eternal constitutional position in our relationship with Krishna, and there's never going to be a disruption. This is all, the whole stage show is managed by Krishna for maximization of pure love. So as you know, Krishna took care of the fire. But later, back to that particular fire, before we go to the next one. That particular fire, it is rumored. There's always rumors in Vrindavan. Every town has rumors. Something buzzing. Did you hear this? I know why that happened. So the perfection of rumor mongering is in Braj Leela. So the word was out after Krishna took care of the forest fire near the bank of the Yamuna. The word was out that the forest fire was actually a supporter of Kaliya. You see, the Brijbasis, when they encamped for the night, they had taken into account Kaliya could try to strike back, but that's okay. We've got our clubs. The men said, we've got our clubs. We'll take care of them. So after the forest fire, there was some talk. This forest fire was actually a supporter of Kaliya, who is also a friend of Kamsa. So then on to the next forest fire, which the Acharyas say was actually bigger than the first one. Krishna and the cowherd boys, the cows, the calves, goats, and buffaloes were wandering through the forest. And then, searching for tastier grass, these animals moved on and moved on and moved on until they were out of sight from the cowherd boys. Why did they go deeper into the forest and so far away? They were overwhelmed by greed for Krishna. It wasn't like material greed for tasty grass. They were absorbed in greed for Krishna. The proof of that point is that everywhere in Vrindavan the grass is luscious and green. Why did they have to go farther and farther away? But they were absorbed in greed for Krishna. And somehow the acharyas say that greed for Krishna turned into, or manifested as they're going farther and farther into the forest. Got that point? So, the cows went, the calves went, the goats, the buffaloes went. When the cowherd boys realized, where are our cows? They became desperate, and they began to search for them. Krishna headed up the search party, because he's Gopala. And their detective work involved looking for clues. And when you're a cowherd boy, looking for your cows, the clues are grass that's been trampled and also vegetation that has been obviously eaten. So they were searching. Where has the grass been trampled? Where are there marks on the ground? And where are signs of vegetation being eaten? And so they followed that. And then they found their animals. Does it end there? No. As they approach the animals, Krishna calls out to them with a voice like a deep rumbling cloud. Do the clouds rumble sometimes here? Yes. Krishna's voice is described as a deep rumbling cloud. And the cows, the buffalo, the goats, the calves responded in their own unique individual way. Okay, the end. Everyone lives happily ever after, right? No, suddenly a forest fire jumps out. It was a hot, dry climate. You have to be careful about understanding climatology in Vrindavan, because some forests have one season, another forest another season, and there are even some forests with all 6 seasons at the same time. So it's all stage managed for Krishna's enjoyment. So even when you read descriptions of there being a drought, are you still having a drought in Auckland and water restrictions? No. Sri Jivacharan says no. Sankarshan Ram says no. Anyway, I think today, later tonight, there's supposed to be massive rain. So, evidently, somehow there was a bit of a drought in this particular part of the forest, and the cowherd boys were thirsty, and they had been chasing their cows. Where are they? And just when they found them, because of the dryness, evidently, but there's always different analyses. Some say that the friction of the dry plants caused a forest fire. Others say this forest fire was a friend of Pralambasura. Again, rumors in Vrindavan. So this forest fire sprung up on all sides, threatening to annihilate everyone. So again, like what happened near the bank of the Yamuna, again, Krishna is called for, Balaram is called for. Krishna, Krishna, Mahavira, oh courageous Krishna. And again, call out for Balaram, please save us. And again, what is the motivation? We don't want to die because that means separation from you. We can't endure separation from you in any kind of way. Of course, that fire of separation is actually more severe than any forest fire. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, you'll read about Mahaprabhu, especially in the Anjalila, the Prem Agni, the fire of pure love, which is epitomized in the last verse of the Shikshashtaka. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, you see the perfection of love of Krishna and separation. So this forest fire is raging. The cowherd boys have turned to Krishna and Balaram. What else are they supposed to do? They remember the instructions of Gargarishi, their own way. They had their own memory of those instructions. Gargarishi said, somehow or other this boy Krishna is able to attract the power of Narayan within him. It's cowherd boy philosophy. They didn't remember that. No, they can't remember. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They just remember somehow or other he'll be protected and he'll be able to protect everyone because Narayan Shakti enters within him. So therefore they called out to Krishna and Balaram. So what did Krishna do? Very interesting. He asked them to close their eyes. Now, would you have done that, surrounded by a blazing wildfire? What do they call them in Australia? Bushfires? Do they have them here? Also, not really. Yes? Jai Sheila's nodding his head. I forget what they call them in the USA. I think it's wildfires, which wiped out California parts of it. So, how is Krishna going to deal with this? Closing your eyes? Krishna will ask you to close your eyes? How many of you would have dared to do that? I'm not closing my eyes. I'm scared. I got to see if there's a way out. That's why we're not in Krishna Leela. We don't depend on Krishna. Where's my fire extinguisher? What's the number you call here? In the States is 911. What's the number you call? 11. Let's get the fire brigade out here. Quick, quick, quick. I've paid my rates. Where's the fire brigade? But Krishna asked the cowherd boys, close your eyes. They had some talk about why he asked them to do that. Well, Krishna, he's got magic, mystical powers. He uses herbs, he uses mantras, he's got all kinds of tricks, but the tricks don't work if someone's watching. That's what's going on. His bag of tricks don't function. Doesn't function when we're watching. So therefore, yes, let's close our eyes. But what's Krishna thinking? If they don't close their eyes and they see me swallowing the forest fire, they won't be able to handle the pain. They'll think I'm damaging myself, and they'll jump into the fire. I can't let that happen, so close your eyes, mates. Close your eyes. Now, there are always rumors, as I said, in Braj, even to this day. So sometimes you'll hear talk to this day in Vrindavan that Krishna asked them to close their eyes because he was worried. They reported me to Mother Yashoda about eating dirt. What will they say if they know I'm swallowing fire? So I'm not going to let them dob me in. Close your eyes, boys. So, a detail to what Krishna did, as stated by the Acharyas, is that he had the fire convert itself into a small, tasty droplet on his hand. The fire knows Krishna's the boss, and so the fire surrendered and became a very tasty, cooling droplet on Krishna's hand, and he swallowed that droplet. So again, the main point is, no selfishness whatsoever. Not even the selfishness as presented by Arjuna in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Selfishness under the guise of concern for material well-being of others. Bhagavad Gita can be a tough pill to swallow if we're attached to mundane conceptions. Because actually Arjuna was being soft-hearted. And we can all use a bit of soft-heartedness. It's just that Krishna wanted him to fight. So although Arjuna was being very moral, kind, soft-hearted, and compassionate, Krishna pointed out there's a higher form yet of compassion and soft-heartedness. Real soft-heartedness ultimately means to do what I want. So then Arjuna dovetails his will with Krishna's will. And by doing that, he's at the perfection of mystic yoga that you're hearing about at the end of this chapter 28, Kapila's instructions on devotional service. Remember the three examples of how a perfectly realized soul has no conception of how the material body is moving or acting. Example number one, an intoxicated person can't understand whether or not there's clothes on. Number two, someone who's had a dream wakes up and detaches themselves from the dream. And number three, family members, money. The attachment is only because of affection, but even amidst that attachment, you understand these family members are different from me. This money is different from me. So in the same way, the liberated soul understands that the body and the self are not the same. You get the same result at the pinnacle of Ashtanga Yoga just by hearing and chanting about Krishna and engaging your senses in Krishna's service. And remember, Krishna is the greatest mystic yogi. Another name for Krishna is Mahayogi. Yogeshvara, the master of all mystic power. Yogeshvareshvara, the master of mystic powers. Yogadish, the controller of the whole yoga system. So he demonstrated that with the forest fires in Vrindavan. Even today, you can go to the place of the first forest fire. Davanala Kund is there to this day. And the greatest mystic power that we can readily experience is Krishna causing us to forget our material desires and remember that we should always engage in his service. That mystic power is done by the supersoul in the heart. Sarvasya chaham hridi sanivishto matasmitir jnanam apovanam cha. I, from within your heart, am the source of knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Forgetfulness in bhakti is important. It doesn't mean you forgot to show up for your deity seva or you lost your car keys or something. Forgetfulness in bhakti means forgetting material desires. It's a mystic power. It's so mystical that non-devotees wonder, what's happened to you? You're not the same person. You're missing something vital. What's come over you? That is the action of the Supersoul in the heart. And then the ability to remember, I need to engage in Krishna's service. That's also the blessing of the Supersoul in the heart. So a constant theme throughout this chapter is that the bhakti yogi gets the same benefit without so much trouble as the Ashtanga yogi may get through such difficulty. And it's especially difficult to perform in this age of Kali. It's practically impossible. In commenting on that, sometimes Prabhupada would say, generally impossible. There may be one person. Very rare, but generally impossible. So we are thankful to use this short lifetime in Krishna's service. Let us all be inspired by the glorious example of His Holiness Bhakti True Maharaj and engage this tiny, short, quick life in serving Krishna. The rarest opportunity and the greatest mysticism. All right. Any questions? Yes.
Maharaj, we hear that fire is the form of Agni, the demigod. The Brajvasis were thinking the fire could be a demon. Is it possible that actually a demon could assume the form of fire, or is it just the rumors that Krishna inspired them to think like that to accelerate the pastime?
When you go there, you send us a message. Yes, another angle, because the acharyas are giving so many angles. Another angle is that, yes, Agni somehow that was connected to the fire, and so Krishna wanted to please Agni and give him a place in his mouth. But he knew the cowherd boys would, if they thought that, they would think Krishna's mouth is not big enough to have a safe spot for Agni the fire. Whereas Krishna knows my mouth can be unlimited. So there are various angles given by the acharyas. So when you go there, you can send us a report back. Anything else? Yes?
We increase our service.
How can we increase our service, he asks? How can we do more for Krishna? Gradually, we start to understand that serving Krishna is not just some kind of rugged individualistic endeavor, like, get out of my way, I'm serving Krishna Prabhus. Gradually, we realize that our service can increase not only by our own individual endeavors, but also by inspiring others, by caring for others, by being sensitive to others. That is also increase in service. His Holiness Bhakti True Maharaj was so expert in inspiring everyone and being gentle with everyone. That's service. And that is beyond just the conception of service as I'm doing my thing for Krishna. We're embedded in a network of loving Vaishnava exchanges. Sometimes there are disagreements, different angles of vision. Prabhupada said this, Prabhupada said that. But somehow or other, amidst the diversity, there has to be unity. And what is the best unity? Based on loving exchanges. That's actually more important than the necessary organizational unity. Everyone wants to feel loved and be loved. That's the crying need in Kali Yuga. Empty heart, barren heart. Everyone wants to be appreciated and encouraged. So we beg Krishna for the ability to inspire and touch hearts. That leads to the greatest increase in service. Especially as you get older, you realize, as I'm realizing. I was talking to about something else, briefly, with His Holiness Bharat Krishna Maharaj. I was trying to say, don't you want to take over some responsibility I have in the USA? It used to be your area. Some or other wind it on my plate. I said, come on. I said, I'm pushing 70 this year. He said, well, I'm way over 70, and stamina is decreasing. Yes, I notice in terms of myself, the stamina is decreasing. But if we can learn how to inspire devotees, then in spite of our diminishing physical energies, and even though you're a young guy, you're probably not showing the same energy as in your 20s, or maybe you are. No. So energies decrease, but the spiritual energies can increase. I was just thinking of Prabhupada. In the early days of ISKCON, he would lead kirtan, long time. And then sometime in the early 70s, if not earlier, maybe the late 60s, he stopped leading kirtan. So you might say, well, how did he get his enlivenment? No more leading kirtan. But after he would finish speaking a lecture, devotees would start a spontaneous kirtan, and you felt his presence through that. So although he wasn't leading kirtan, he would sing Jai Radha Madhava, but not more than that. Devotees felt the empowerment coming from Krishna this way, that way. And they would jump up after he finished his lecture and make a kirtan, and everyone went delirious, and everyone knew this is Prabhupada Shakti. They didn't think, oh, I'm a big kirtan leader, Prabhupada is watching me. And no, they knew this is all his bhakti. So yes, as we get older, if we want our service to increase, we have to get the spiritual ability to care for devotees more, inspire devotees more. There's no limit to that. Vaishnavis, any questions? Yes. How do we discriminate between serving for our pleasure and for Krishna's pleasure?
Yeah, if we're doing it with our own motivation because it's our nature or whatever.
That's something, isn't it? That's a great step forward. I often explain you don't look down at karma yoga. Most devotees should look up to karma yoga. You got abilities you're attached to? Engage them in Krishna's service. You like to manage, you like to take responsibility? Do it for Krishna. And then gradually you become purified to the point of understanding what is pure bhakti, which is whatever Krishna wants, however Krishna wants it. So we don't discourage people from thinking, I like to do this, so I'm going to do it for Krishna. We welcome that. You like to make money? Fine, make money for Krishna. You like music, you like art? Do it for Krishna. And then gradually, according to one's sincerity and attachment for chanting Hare Krishna, you start to realize, how does Krishna enjoy what I'm doing? In the beginning, you're thinking, I'm really enjoying doing this for Krishna. Okay, great. We're not going to interrogate all the devotees. Now, when you're doing this service, are you thinking that it's for Krishna's happiness or just for your own? We're so happy that they're, hey! I remember Kalasambhara once, we were talking about, sometimes in ISKCON, there's this controversy over Majjamadhikaris, Kanishtadhikaris, and Uttamadhikaris. So Kalasambhara Prabhu is famous for making the remark, hey, when I look, this is before there's so many servitors of Radha Giridhari. He said, when I look at the deity roster, I'd like to see some more Kanishtadhikaris, those who take the deity seriously. I'd like to see devotees rise up to the Kanishta platform, in which they focus on the deities but don't know how to treat other devotees. We could use a few more Kanishtas right now. Of course, I've heard that it's not easy to get a spot on the deity roster. Is that? Anyone know? Yes, that's wonderful. Anything else? Yes. You're talking about getting older? How old are you? How old are you? Huh? 26 years old. He's talking about getting older. How old were you when you became a devotee? 19. He started when he was 19. Now he's 26, an old man. Okay, so you're getting older, and so what's the question? He says when he was younger, a brand new devotee, he was eager to hear devotees' advice. But now, you're not so eager? Well, you know everything by now, right? After 7 years? You know everything now, right? Yes, we have to guard against familiarity. And that takes some begging of the deities, begging Krishna. Don't let me take the association of devotees for granted. I may think I know so much, but I don't. You just beg Krishna, please ignore this nonsense in me. Please purify it. I don't want to become familiar with devotees, because once you start on that road of becoming familiar with devotees, the exit door looms ahead. You start finding faults. You start becoming full of yourself. There are a lot of things I could have been doing instead of serving Krishna. I could have been making lots of money, setting myself up, you know. And I just sacrificed years for devotional service with the devotees who have this problem and that problem and so on and so forth. So we should always remember and beg for the privilege of devotional service in the association of devotees. Tandara Chanasevi, Bhakta Saneva, Janame Janame Abhilas. My desire, birth after birth, is let me serve Krishna in the association of devotees. So it's good that we notice those things. Seeing the enemy is half the way to victory. But you can't overcome it materially. Familiarity is natural in material life. That's why marriages break up, friends become estranged from each other. You just get sick of the other person, you know? How many years is it going to be? That I just have to tolerate the same idiosyncrasies in this person. Whether you're a brahmachari or a householder, materially you can start thinking like that. I'm getting my own scene away from my spouse or away from the brahmacharis. I'm setting myself up. I'm going to build a world of my own. You know I'm going to find peace of mind in a world of my own. So you have to watch out for that. And it can only be overcome by Krishna's mercy. So you have to beg for that. Otherwise, it's a natural tendency. Okay? All right. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Sorry, before